scripture that Don just read to you from Mark's Gospel is the calling of those first four disciples, Peter, Andrew, James, and John. They were fishermen, doing the things that fishermen do, casting the nets into the sea and mending the nets in the boat. If you weren't about casting, your job was always to make sure that the nets were mended, because it didn't do you much good to throw those nets out there if they had holes in them or if they had weak spots that weren't reinforced where the fish were going to go right through it. Casting and mending, the things that were the ordinary things of their lives that brought to them and made a living for them. We know what it's like to be a part of life that is routined in that way, for we too spend our lives casting and mending, doing those things in our lives that are necessary for us to be able to provide for our families, that are necessary for us to be able to find enough income and investment so that we can retire, enough so that we can find relationships with our children and with our mates and with our friends. Casting and mending the ordinary things of this person's life. And whether we aren't fishermen, but we have other careers and ways in which we do those ordinary things. And in retirement, sometimes you find yourself more busy than you were when you were working, because I watch some of you and I go, Mary the other day I watched, good grief. She was doing from one thing to the other, casting and mending, doing those things that are ordinary. But often they can come to the point in which they are so routine that we're on autopilot. And we really don't see what's going on in our lives. We just do the routines that need to be done, whether it's in our homes, our jobs, our careers, or even in our churches as we gather to worship and to learn. On autopilot, casting and mending. In the midst of the everyday ordinariness of life, Jesus comes first to Peter and to Andrew and asks them to follow him. Peter and Andrew and James and John weren't looking for Jesus. There's nothing here that says anything about that they were looking to go and have something different come about in their lives and move into a different direction. But Jesus comes to them, follow me. It is in the midst of our ordinary living of our lives that Jesus comes to us and says, follow me. He doesn't just say, follow me and I'll make you something entirely different than what you are now, because he doesn't say that to those disciples either. He just simply says, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. He could have been talking to carpenters and he would have said, follow me and I'll help you build the kingdom. Or doctors, follow me and I'll help you mend the brokenness of people's lives. Or teachers, follow me and I'll help you to open the minds of others that they may learn. Follow me as a parent that I may help you to nurture your children. Follow me. And out of the ordinariness of your life, I will bring transformation. That's what God offers to us. Transformation in the midst of what is ordinary around us. He invites them to come and to follow him. Then the scripture says, immediately they left the boat and they went and they followed Jesus. There's no discussion here about how they're going to follow Jesus, what needs to happen for them to follow Jesus. You know, if Mark had been writing about me and that invitation had been given to me, I probably would have answered something like this. How long are we going to be gone? Where are we going? What do I need to take? What do I need to pack? What do I need to get ready to have for all of my family to leave behind? What lists do I need to make? That's what we want to do. We want to make all of the lists. And when Jesus calls us, we say, I want a list. I want an itinerary. Jesus didn't even give them a map. By now I would have Googled it, found out, what direction I was going to have to take, because directions are not my forte, and figured out all of the things that were going to need to happen. They didn't do that. They left. They let go of what was and went forward to follow Jesus in a journey that was going to open to them newness of life. That's hard to do. We want to make our lists. We want to have it all figured out ahead. I'm beginning to hear some comments that go something like this. Well, can you give me exactly what we need to do so we can figure out where we need to be and when we can get there really quickly in this congregation? Just give me the list. Just tell me what it is and figure it all out. Jesus doesn't do that, and we're not going to do it that way either. We're going to have to find ways in which we listen and hear God's call. Because following Jesus is always about incorporating a larger vision than what we've got now. A larger expanse in which God will transform what is. Doesn't take it away and just poof, it's gone. He makes it into something transformed and different, so that we might live our lives as the people of God, as this congregation. It means we have to make room for something if we want something new in our lives. These 4 people were simply making room to follow Jesus as they left behind some things that they needed to let go of. One of my graduate programs, I had a teacher who was trying to help us figure out ways in which we help people to vision and see things in a different way. And she shared the story about a woman that she was working with as a coaching client. And this person came to her saying, I'd really like to have somebody new in my life. I'd like to have a relationship with someone else. I'm lonely, and I really want someone to share my life with. Lucia says to her, well, is there enough space for another person in your life? She thinks for a moment. She goes home and says, I have a 2-car garage and I always park in the middle. I have closets in my house completely full. Nobody else could come into this place and find any space here. She began to clean out things and started parking on the right side of the garage. And lo and behold, over time, she does connect with someone new to be a part of her life. We have to let go of some things in order to have other things come into our space. Jesus calls the disciples, come, follow me. And they left their boats. What little boats do we have in our own lives that need to be left at least for a while, so that we can come and follow and find from Jesus the direction that he's calling us to go, so we can take that journey together. Where is God calling us to go? How is God calling us to go? It's a little frightening. because we don't have it all mapped out ahead of time. But God reveals it. My goodness, look at the revelation that happens to those 4 people and the transformation that happens in their lives. That is what God calls us to. Come.